Monday evening. If he had had his way, Peter McDermott thought he would have fired the chief house detective long ago. But he had not had his way, and now, once more, the obese ex-policeman was missing when he was needed most. McDermott leaned down from his husky 6.5 feet and jiggled the desk telephone impatiently. 15 things break loose at once, he told the girl by the window of the wide, broad-loomed office, and nobody can find him. Christine Francis glanced at her wristwatch. It showed a few minutes before 11 p.m. There's a bar on Baron Street you might try. Peter McDermott nodded. The switchboard's checking Ogilvy's hangouts. He opened a desk drawer, took out cigarettes, and offered them to Christine. Coming forward, she accepted a cigarette, and McDermott lit it, then did the same for himself. He watched as she inhaled. Christine Francis had left her own small office in the St. Gregory Hotel executive suite a few minutes earlier. She had been working late and was at the point of going home when a light under the assistant general manager's door had drawn her in. "Our Mr. Ogilvy makes his own rules," Christine said. "It's always been that way, on WT's orders." McDermott spoke briefly into the telephone, then waited again. "You're right," he acknowledged. "I tried to reorganize our tame detective force once, and my ears were properly pinned back." She said quietly, "I didn't know that." He looked at her quizzically. "I thought you knew everything." And usually she did. As personal assistant to Warren Trent, the unpredictable and irascible owner of New Orleans' largest hotel, Christine was privy to the hotel's inner secrets, as well as its day-to-day affairs. She knew, for example, that Peter, who had been promoted to assistant general manager a month or two ago, was virtually running the big, bustling St. Gregory, though at an ungenerous salary and with limited authority. She knew the reasons behind that, too, which were in a file marked confidential and involved Peter McDermott's personal life. Christine asked, "What is breaking loose?" McDermott gave a cheerful grin which contorted his rugged, almost ugly features. "We've a complaint from the 11th floor about some sort of sex orgy. On the 9th, the Duchess of Croydon claims her Duke has been insulted by a room service waiter. There's a report of somebody moaning horribly in 1439. And I've the night manager off sick, with the other 2 house officers otherwise engaged." He spoke into the telephone again, and Christine returned to the office window, which was on the main mezzanine floor. Head tilted back to keep the cigarette smoke from her eyes, she looked casually across the city. Directly ahead, through an avenue of space between adjoining buildings, she could see into the tight, crowded rectangle of the French Quarter. With midnight an hour away, it was early yet for the quarter, and lights in front of the late-night bars, bistros.
Hi, and welcome to the 9th broadcast of Community Library Training. I'm Sheila Fuhrer, and with me is Paul DeSlover. What we've been listening to for the first few minutes of the program is a cassette book or a recording of Arthur Haley's well-known novel, Hotel. And this is just one of the special services that is available to Alaskans who are either blind or physically handicapped. Paul, maybe you remember the workshop when the students from Community Library Training were in Juneau, and it was during that time, and I don't know if you were in the department or not, it was during that time that they had kind of a whirlwind tour of the Alaska State Library. A couple of you were interested in the basic programs and services that were being offered, and you asked if we would do a program on the services for the blind and physically handicapped, and for that reason I've asked Paul for his help. I know that you've got all kinds of things to show us, Paul. I also know from what you said earlier that you're fairly new to Alaska. I think you've got me beat, but what's gotten you involved there in this particular service?
Well, like you say, Sheila, I've been in Alaska 8 months now, and I've been associated with this program for only 6. And it's such a fantastic program that I'm really glad to be a part of it. And the potential here is just tremendous, especially in the people with the people we already are reaching and the people we could reach. It could be just an outstanding program.
Okay, I think that what we're going to try to take the kind of approach where we start out with explaining that really this service is not a uniquely Alaskan service, and I asked you if you would kind of prepare an overview of...
Right. It was started in 1931 by the Library of Congress. They passed a bill, and at that time it was for the blind only, and they started with a budget of $100,000. And now in 1975 it's grown to 53 regional libraries and 80 sub-regional libraries And we are a sub-regional library here in Alaska, Seattle being the regional for us. Since that time, the budget's also grown by leaps and bounds. It's up now to, I think they appropriated $11.5 million for this program for fiscal year '75. And last year there was $17 million spent on the program by the federal, state, and local funds. So you can see it's grown quite a bit since then.
That's incredible expenditure.
It's amazing. Just shows how much potential this program does have.
I think we're going to say this more than once. One of the reasons why that's important to us is that the services are free.
Right.
And I guess maybe we can't say that too many times.
No,
but let's talk about who can qualify essentially for the services.
Okay. I'd just like to start by saying that there are, throughout the United States, approximately 400,000 people who do qualify and who do use the service. And in Alaska here, the main qualifications are, as the program signifies, the title signifies, you must be blind or partially sighted or physically handicapped in a way that you would not be able to use conventional print. This could be multiple sclerosis, any disease like this where you would not be able to use conventional print. And it's open not only to adults but to children, all ages. And we try to reach as many people as we possibly can through this program.
Okay, we said that one of the points that we really wanted to make, and I guess I felt this way so strongly when I was looking at the nature of the material, it's very attractive. The equipment is made available, and I know you'll explain that. It's important that we point out to our students and to anyone really who's viewing this program, this is a service specifically available to people who meet that criteria, and it's not a service that's available like to you or me.
True. They have to be certified by either a doctor, a public health nurse, or even a librarian can certify them, but they have to be certified in order to use the service.
Okay, in certification, we'll get into this probably when we talk about what we do, but it's just a matter of someone signing and saying this person is qualified to receive.
Yes, that's all.
The service. Okay. I think one of the things that you and I talked about initially when we very first decided that we would put together this program for the students was, I think I asked you, how many people really are we reaching in Alaska? And then I went on to say, how many do you think, that we should be reaching? And what kind of figures were we experimenting with?
Okay, right now in our program we have 90 adults and 51 children. And this is far below what we could have. There was a census taken by vocational rehabilitation in 1968. And at that time they forecasted the figures for 1975. And out of a population of 300,000, they forecasted 16,000 people that would be available just because of blindness or because they were partially sighted. This doesn't include those physically handicapped. So we're talking about a vast amount of people that could be in the program and aren't, either because they don't know about it or they're afraid to.
And
they're not encouraged to get into it.
I should be honest and say that's really the hidden agenda in part.
Right.
And the fact that Paul has come over and we've brought the equipment into the studio and so forth, it occurs to me that in the course of our students going through this correspondence course that they're in, Paul, I was looking for some kind of section where maybe Mr. Schubert had included a discussion of specialized services that were available, and I didn't find that discussion. So in a way we're kind of supplementing the course. As you and I talked about it, we felt, gee, if our students in their community libraries or wherever they were even knew just one person who might qualify, that the whole program and our whole effort would have been worth it, because if you're right, or not you, but if our resources are right, and the number of people who would qualify for it as opposed to the number of people we're serving, we're really serving only a fraction.
And we've just scratched the surface. We have a long way to go.
We really have. Okay, I know one of the things that we promised ourselves we were going to take time to do was to really look at what some of the services were. We opened with the cassette. I said I was going to say these things wrong. That was a cassette book.
Right.
Right?
Cassette book.
Okay, do we have... Did I bring that large thing that showed the number of cassettes that are involved in that
The
little
catalog.
link? Oh, I have the catalog too. Right, that might be a good place to start, the catalog. Okay, what is listed in here, Paul?
Okay, This catalog comes out once a year, printed by the Library of Congress, and in it is listed the new books that have been published and a short annotation so that the reader may know what he's ordering when he selects the titles.
Okay, we don't have every one of these titles available through the State Library, do we? Can't we get most of them? Is that?
Right now our collection here consists of about 1,500 cassette books and approximately 2,500 talking books, which are
we'll get into
recordings
too.
on disc, right. So we have a pretty large collection, but anything we don't have is available through the regional library in Seattle, through normal interlibrary loan channels. And if they can't get a hold of something that a patron requests, well, then we would write directly to the Library of Congress.
Okay, I see. You know, I think one of the things that very first ran through my mind when I thought about, we all know the standard size of a cassette. We saw you use one there for this book. Actually, all of this text is not in that one, is it?
No. In fact, it depends on the size of the book, but most books contain anywhere from 3 to 40 cassettes. And this is one advantage with having the cassette books rather than the talking books on disc form, because they can put a large book in maybe 20 cassettes, where if they had it on a record, it would probably be anywhere from 35 to 40 records, and you can imagine how heavy that would be.
And how easy it
Right.
would be to get the wrong record in the wrong
Right.
thing
And
and
it
so
happens,
forth.
yes.
And yet that makes me think maybe we should ask you to take a look at some of the features of this equipment. I am
Okay.
really impressed. It's, let's see, what is the word? Is it coded or it's arranged in Braille so
Right.
that...
It has the Braille figures on top so that the people will know exactly what button to push. It comes with a cassette that explains the machine and just how it operates, so there's no problem in them learning the intricacies of this machine at all. It really isn't that intricate. But
Once a patron is registered, and they indicate their preference for equipment, do we automatically mail them such a machine as this?
right, and it's, like you said, it's free. All this whole program is free. They could have either the cassette machine or the talking book machine. It depends on what their preference, what they like more. However, most of the magazines published by the Library of Congress through the American Printing House in Louisville come on a disc form. So if they would want to receive
Magazines, they should
monthly
ask
magazines,
for a
they should ask for a
book.
talking book, and they can have both.
Okay, which is which now? Let's...
Okay, this is the cassette machine, the cassette player, and this is the talking book machine. It's basically your standard phonograph. The only difference being that it has 33, 18, and an 8 speed, which is very slow.
Let's talk about that. It was
All
one
right.
of the things we were going to demonstrate anyway, and let's see, am I the one? Yes, I'm the one. I'm the one who has the National Geographic on my lap, and I know I have been always puzzled. I really wondered, how could National Geographic, and that's just one of the titles available, what would it sound like? And so, why don't you see if we can pick up some of the sound from the talking book machine that you've brought over.
Okay.
The fishermen here chant, Elisa, Elisa, as they haul their nets. If you ask why, they cannot tell you, they just do it, said young Patricia Cecil Bucay, born in California, now married to a Lebanese, Pierre Bucay, chief of excavation work at Tyre. Elisa, Princess of Tyre, Virgil's Dido, said the third archaeologist, Dr. James B. Pritchard, a lanky, gray-haired biblical scholar from the University of Pennsylvania Museum. Puffing on a pipe, he spoke as if thinking aloud. She was Jezebel's grandniece. Her brother, the king, murdered her husband, Tyre's high priest. She fled first to Cyprus, then to North Africa, and founded Carthage. That all happened, tradition has it, nearly 3,000 years ago, more than 800 years before Christ was born in the hills to the south.
Okay, well, I guess it
happened
sounds
in the
like
golden
National
age of
Geographic, doesn't it?
People
It sure
who roamed
does.
the Mediterranean from
That's just one of the materials. Let's see, magazines are one of the things available on discs or recordings.
Right. Magazines are also available on cassettes, but they're very hard to get. They don't reproduce most of the magazines on cassette, so it would be a special order, and it might be months late. So if they want to receive magazines, it's best to get it in a talking book form. and have the talking book machine.
Do magazines then come, Paul? We're kind of getting into what you do once you receive a request from someone, but do magazines come regularly then? I mean, issues come regularly if you
Yes,
subscribe?
Right, just as same as you just subscribe in your home, the same way. Sometimes they're a little later. If it's a weekly magazine, it'll tend to be behind. If it's a monthly, it'll usually arrive on time. And these are on a share basis, though, with the patrons in the program. And so it depends on how fast they receive the material, and there is difficulty here in Alaska with shipment, as you know.
I guess that's the one, yes, and so do our students know that there is difficulty in Alaska with exchange of mail. We are daily reminded, so, okay. One of the other things that, let's see, I made a list so I wouldn't forget. We said that we were going to talk, okay, magazines are available on discs, or records as we call them.
And cassette.
And cassette. And the other thing, what have I done with it? It's the large print. Here, do I have it here? Here it is. It's a large print edition of Reader's Digest. And for those of those of you who have not seen it, when we say large print, we really do mean, large print. I don't know how well the camera can pick that up, but this is a December 1974 edition of Reader's Digest. We don't just have magazines in large print, though.
No, we have a collection in the main section of the library. However, I don't know how much this is used. I don't keep no records of it. So.
But it is available, so that if we're working with people who are partially sighted, the difference between being able to read standard small print and being able to read this large print is the difference between being able to use it and not use it at all, isn't it? Okay, I asked you also, and I've forgotten now what we said. You're also responsible for giving some services to institutions in Alaska. What is that?
We send cassette books and talking books to most of the larger institutions, the Pioneers Homes, Harborview Memorial Hospital, and a few other institutions on a monthly basis. We usually send them on the average of 15 or 20 books, and they have the talking book machines and cassette machines from us, and they see that the patrons make use of them. We also have some patrons in the homes that receive their own copies. They're in our program, right? So they read above and beyond what we send to the institution.
One of the things that you mentioned to me that I don't think I really realized was that Braille services are not available directly through us, and I think you've got an example of a children's book there. How would our students help people get a hold of Braille? This is one book. Looks like so. Where is Braille available?
Well, the Braille collection is available through us.
Oh,
right,
okay.
Through our regional library. I don't know how extensive their collection is. I've never been there, and I've never had chance to ask. So, but anything that was requested, we could get through the Library of Congress. They have the entire collection.
Okay, so if there are either children or adults who are trained in Braille and prefer Braille to one of the other, we can get it for them.
Have no problem getting it.
Oh, great. Okay. Reel-to-reel tapes, didn't you also mention to me?
We have reel-to-reel tapes also available through the regional library in Seattle. This would be played on a standard tape recorder, the 7 or 5-inch reel.
I would guess, and I have no experience with this, but I would guess it would be a lot easier to handle a cassette than it would be a reel-to-reel.
Definitely. They prefer the cassette machines.
Yeah, I would guess so. Well, okay, the other thing that we really have to get into is what do we do once our students have either located someone, or they know someone, or it can be just kind of a one person tells one person grapevine kind of thing. What happens once a referral is made? I think I've got one of the forms here that can be used, and how does that go? Okay,
if they know of someone who is eligible for this service, I think some of the libraries have been sent this application form. I'm not positive. If not, just contact me and I will be glad to send them.
But I think they should be out in the field, in community libraries.
It's necessary to expand the program to what we want it to be, for sure. So if all they need to do is send a letter, name of the patron, the address, or we could send it in care of the library or librarian, whatever, And I will forward all material, the applications, the catalogs, and a list of what's available through our service to the patron.
And it's all free.
It's all free.
The
Everything
exchange,
is free.
the mail exchange, there's no postage, the patrons
Nothing.
don't pay to send materials back or anything?
Nothing. It's
they?
all free. And some of the patrons receive weekly shipments, which some average 10 books a week.
My
We're
goodness.
avid readers. It's amazing, isn't it? And the others are on a one-for-one basis. When they send a book back, I send them a book. From experience, I'd say the best system, if you're an avid reader, is the weekly shipment, because you're assured of having your books there.
Something come regularly.
Right.
I gather from looking at this form, Paul, that this kind of, it says kinds of materials wanted: fiction, nonfiction, magazines, adult, intermediate, juvenile. This, you must build up kind of a profile of your readers
right.
from this.
Right. We have a profile on each patron who is in the program. And initially, they select the books they would like to read, and it's recorded in their profile. If, for some reason, this book isn't in, or maybe all of their selections wouldn't be in at one time, which happens often
sure.
with the circulation being what it is, we have a right to select something for them. And that's where the profile comes in real handy.
So that
because,
if you know they're mystery
right,
readers.
we
then-
know what they want. We know something about the person. We try to choose something that we think they would really enjoy.
Okay, our time is fleeting by us like it always is. I think what we'll probably do now, I want to take, before the program is completely over, I asked you to pull some letters from some of the people who are receiving the service, but let's stop right now and
Okay.
give the students who are in the field a chance to ask questions. And as is always the case during interaction, Paul, we say any question is valid. It may not relate to what you and I have been talking about at all, so we'll see. If we'll hush for a second and give the students a chance to call us. Okay, do we have a question or a comment from someone in the field? We'd be glad to hear from you. That's Mary Matthews. I can't believe it.
Okay, Sheila, my question is this. I'm getting a terrible echo, so it's hard to be speaking to you. Can people who are non-readers or speakers of English use this service?
Okay, I'm going to repeat the question because there was a lot of echo. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The question was, can non-English speaking people use this service? And I'm going to start to answer that, and I want you to amplify on it. One of your concerns, I think you said, was that so much of the material was not especially relevant to a large percentage of your patrons, because there are many Native Alaskans who are non-English reading or non-English speaking people who qualify for the service. And what was the one thing that we thought that might be of use to them, the one program, although it didn't have anything to do with the Library of Congress?
The program, the Songs and Legends.
The Songs and Legends, which is
Right.
the new Alaska Library. So, well, it's quite a joint effort. But there are materials in cassette format available in native languages. And so the answer to the question is yes. One of our concerns is that we are able to get material that is relevant to a large percentage of our patrons. And I would guess this isn't a uniquely Alaskan problem.
I really don't know the answer to that, Sheila. The guidelines state what I've already said about blind, physically handicapped. We have to stick closely to these guidelines since it is a federal program. I can check and see what we can do about this situation, but I really can't give an answer on that.
I know one of the other things you mentioned was the strong interest on the part of your patrons, and it kind of comes through in some of the letters you picked, even if we don't get a chance to share them today, was Alaskan people like to read about Alaskan literature.
Exactly.
And that you're very interested in trying to get materials that are of interest to the patrons actually involved and recorded. Well, that's a brief answer, but it was a good question, and it's good to know that they are receiving us. Let's give one more person a chance, or another party a chance, to hush and see if they'd like to call in.
This is Tana, over.
Excuse me, is it Tanner now? We read you. I'm not sure if is that what I heard?
I just want to know whether you read me. This is Luvia in Tana.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to ask was, who's on the TV? Paul, who?
Okay, Olivia, would you repeat your question?
I wanted to know the name of the guy who's on the TV with you right now.
She wants to know the name of the fellow on the television. Paul DeSlover. Paul.
Could you spell that last name for me in case I'd like to write to him and ask him anything? Or?
You bet. Would you spell your last name for her, Paul?
D-E, capital S-L-O-O-V-E-R.
Thank you.
Okay.
One other thing too, Sheila. This doesn't have to do with this particular program.
Fine.
In all my literature from you, I just found this transportation okay that you sent me for the conference in general, and I didn't go. And do you need this transportation thing at all?
Okay. I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to hear your question well, Olivia. And I know that it just regarded something that I sent to you. I'll ask anyone else. Did you understand her question?
No, I didn't.
I'm sorry. As a matter of fact, why don't I give you a call when we're off the air, and we'll clear that up, whatever it was. Okay, we're down now to just only about a minute left, Paul, and I thought what I had really asked him to do was to go through some of the letters that we had received and kind of give us an idea of what it's like from the people's receiving end. And you might like to share a couple of the comments that come through from people who receive the service.
Okay, I just want to make one statement here. All the correspondence we receive isn't good about the program, of course, but the majority of it is, and this is really rewarding when we receive letters like this. Okay, this is from a lady in Anchorage whose father is a participant in the program. We had to use a great deal of extra effort to get him started using this material. Now, of course, he really enjoys the program and is always looking forward to the next material. Thanks to you and this fine program, I am convinced that this has given my father a new lease on life. I know it will prolong his mental ability.
Oh, that's great. That is good. And well, that's great. The idea of having to convince some of the people that it's a free program, that they are materials that they can use and receive free, is a role really that our students can play in referring just one person. I was pleased to hear Olivia say she wanted to know your name and how to spell it because she intended to to directly write to you. That's wonderful. Paul, we never have the amount of time that we think we're going to have, and it's a joke now for me to think that we wondered if we would fill. We once were talking about only 15 minutes.
Right.
So thanks for at least getting us started in the whole area of the special services to the blind and physically handicapped. I know that if our students write in either to you or to me, that maybe we can help fulfill the dream. You know, you're interested in reaching many more people. So thanks very much, and we'll see people at the next broadcast in 2 weeks.